In this video, I talk with 4 great players about the Costa Mesa Regional coming up. We also talk about the future of Expanded with Zoroark and Lucario GX. All that coming up right now. Hey, this is Seagrove, and today I'm joined by 4 great players. Rukan, Michael Pramawat, Connor LaVelle, and Kian Amini. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves very quickly, and then we will get into our meta forecast for Costa Mesa. I'm glad I remembered what it's called. All right, Rukan, you go ahead.
Hey guys, my name's Rukan. I started playing competitively since about September. I top 8'd Hartford, top 16'd San Jose, and I really haven't done much since then. But I've been floating around writing articles every now and then.
Same. Pramawat.
Hi, I'm Michael Pramawat. Currently ranked 2nd in North America, and used to be ranked 1st, but sometimes you lose some.
Sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
And you won 2 regionals and haven't done much since then.
Yeah, I won 2 regionals this season, and it's been floating around the 128s, 256.
Okay. Connor.
I am Connor LaVelle. I write for Someone's PC and Poke Beach. I top 16 Dallas, and I haven't done much since then.
That's the theme. Kian.
Hey guys, my name's Kian Amini, and I've been playing for about 12 years. I've been top 16 ranked from 2015 to 17, and this season I top 16 regional and top 32 one, and I'm almost done with qualifying. I write for Someone's PC.
That's awesome. And I won a League Cup, and I haven't done much since then. All right, so let's get into this. Looking at last, Dallas was the last expanded regional. Pram, did you win that? I don't remember.
Dallas?
Yeah.
No, I did not win that one. But I won one in Texas a few years ago, but it wasn't this year.
One of my goals for next year is to have more League Cup wins than you have regional wins, but I don't think it's realistic.
Israel Sosa has more regional wins than cities and League Cup wins.
Right now, I'm using my roommate in that too.
Yeah,
that's funny.
You have more. That's good.
I have more regional wins than he has cup/city wins.
Okay, that's solid. All right, maybe for the season that should be my goal. All right, so let's talk. So Dallas, we saw Zoroark in first place, Zoroark in second place, Zoroark, Galissapod, and Lycanroc were 3rd and 4th, and then I think Drampa Garb were in top 8, and I think another Zoroark maybe. Anyways, there's a lot of Zoroark. So first question. I'm going to do this to anyone who feels like they can speak to Drampa Garb. Why was Drampa Garb able to beat a lot of Zoroarks until the finals? In the finals, I guess we kind of saw that the best Zoroark lists were beating Drampa Garb. But why was Drampa Garb able to handle Zoroarks except for the very best ones?
Go ahead if you want to.
It's because a lot of the Zoroark decks, they cut a heavy supporter count. So if they're a lot more vulnerable to Righteous Edge plus N than something in standard would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also, field blower counts in expanded are really low, so it's a lot easier to stick a Garbotoxin lock than it is in standard.
Yeah, so basically the Drampa Garb game plan was to stick a parallel, reduce your bench to 3, stick Garbodor, and then Righteous Edge until they win. And in expanded, there's not a lot of great answers to that with the current deck list. So until you ran into a supporter heavier build of Zoroark, it just kind of ran them over. All because all 3 Drampa Garbs lost doesn't necessarily mean Drampa Garb should have lost, but it is what it. I think the matchup is probably Garb favored at the very least.
Okay. Isaiah told me he guesses one of them out of the game, so guesses is so powerful, and it could just steal games against unfavorable matchups. But yeah.
Maybe this is my bias for my own team, but they thought it was a bad deck because they think that a lot of it was the surprise factor of facing Garbodor, right? I think a lot of people that went in misplayed against Garbodor because they probably didn't like play test much against it. And then like my own teammates, I think Ryan Grant, he missed 10 damage per game, just because that was just a misplay. And I think Caleb did something along those lines. And if it weren't for those two misplays, there would just be one Drampa Garb in top 8. It's just, I mean, you have parallels, but you don't deal with Lycanroc. Lycanroc still sweeps you if you just manage your items and then don't burn too many of your DCs early on.
Yeah, I think the deck is more geared towards just being like beating Lonzo.
Yeah.
Rather than beating Lycanroc. Like the deck definitely has like damage output problems. I'm talking about Garbodor. Like because it's totally dependent on your opponent. It's really just like a heavy control denial deck that does low damage output.
Yep.
So anything that can just kind of attack with basic energies or fighting type, you're just like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
So what can Drampa Garb do to increase its chances against the Zoroark? Is there anything else that those decks can play to increase their chances here?
I think it was pretty optimized to beat Zoroark as it was. You might... trying to think. I mean, so the big three things that they were trying to take advantage of were heavy reliance on abilities, heavy reliance on special energy, and heavy reliance on Skyfield. So they hit all three of those angles. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of another aspect where Zoroark is particularly vulnerable. So Lycanroc might just be too difficult to deal with because it can take one-shots on a Drampa GX without caring about its bench size.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more energy denial, but that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, the fact that it's a basic fighting too, is a big deal because it can't get Righteous Edged. So it just you put it on there, and then they're like, Righteous Edge for 20, and you're like, DCE knockout, and then they're like, Righteous Edge for 20, and you're like, DCE knockout. So, Lycanroc is a big problem for that deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
In theory, you could like run a Flare Grunt and like plan to Flare Grunt and then Righteous Edge in the same turn, but puzzles make that a little bit difficult to keep doing.
Yeah, and at a certain point, you're also just making a completely different deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like as Drampa Garb is now, Lycanroc Zoroark is probably a poor matchup.
Okay. Is there anything Zoroark, like Lon Zoroark or anything, could do to combat Drampa Garb?
Have your Field Blower count for one. Like
yeah. So when I first built the Lonzor deck at San Jose, I ran 2 Field Blower at San Jose Regionals, expecting Garbodor decks, and I did not hit any. But that's what I did at San Jose Regionals. I ran 2 Field Blower. And I tested that matchup like the older when Garbodor first was played early in the season, the toolbox thing. Yeah. I played 2 Field Blower. It was like really easy, but like you could just put back 2 second Field Blower, and it's pretty easy probably.
Okay, another Field Blower. Anything else?
Yeah, I think Garbodor is just really easy to counter. Like when you're trying to counter it, it kind of falls into the area of like Night March, where it's like if no one kind of prepares for it, then it's like super brutal to play against. But yeah, I think if you just play a more conservative list, then you'll just be fine against Garbodor decks.
Okay. Pram, does Night March have any room at the top tables now?
Only if it's exclusively ran by very high level players. Okay. Anyone trying to run it as the meta is now. If people keep running Oricorio and Toad as the meta is now, like maybe 2 at max makes it through. Okay. To like day 2.
Rukan, what about Weavile and Expanded?
I mean, the Hex is popular now, and then once they Hex, Weavile does nothing is the big issue. maybe you can pull off something if they can't chain the Hex, but then you'd have to play test a lot, and I don't think most people have time to play test that much to get to the point where they can confidently say Weavile is good or bad. And if it's bad, you just spend like the 1 week you had to play test to figure out that a deck is bad. So I don't think it's a safe play. I don't think many people, if any, really know if it's like good or not, but I would be inclined to say it's pretty bad in a Hex heavy format.
Okay. Connor, I'm gonna ask you about Gardevoir. Is it dead, or can Gallade save it?
I think it's really weak right now. The inclusion of red card into Zoroark decks make it so that they can hit a serious amount of damage and they can also disrupt you in the same turn. Whereas before you'd either like eat some kind of disruption or they would like do something meaningful. But if they can red card Hex or red card Getsis, and then take a knockout on like a Gallade or something, then like you're pretty much out of the game. It's very hard to come back from that.
So Kian, the deck I first knew you for was Rainbow Road, but I'm not going to ask you about that because I already know the answer. What do you think is the best Zoroark variant right now?
Probably like the straight version with red card, like either the list that Isaiah got. I mean, I think all of them are just relatively strong, but I think the deck version that runs red cards is super strong. Like at Dallas, I played Zoroark Lycanroc with 2 Hex Maniac, and the mistake I made was I should have ran red card and gets this. So I mean, like, I think only the straight version could really fit those cards. I think that combination of disruption is just way too powerful right now. The red card Hex is just ridiculous. I mean, I think like the first place list or the second place list are like the best versions, followed by Zoroark, Lycanroc. I think they're all really strong decks. Like Zoroark is a really strong deck.
Yeah. Pram, is there a Zoroark list better than one of the top 2?
I mean, the only thing that's can be considered is like looking at standard, and then maybe transferring over some of the Zoroark decks from standard to expanded. Like an example would be the Zoroark Garbodor deck that took some hype. Another deck would be like trying out the Weavile versions, but other than like trying to see if those decks are viable in standard, I think Zoroark has pretty much it is where it is right now, where it's like you play Lonzo, you can play Lycanroc, you can play Glissapod, but if you want to try out the other Zoroark standard variants and expanded, you can do that too.
Connor, what about you? Do you have a list that you like best of the Zoroarks besides one of the ones mentioned?
Not anything really outside of the ones mentioned, but I think that the 4 execute version is very strong into like a mirror match, just because you've got like a double Hex and you can play like you are prepared to use Hex Maniac basically every single turn of the game.
Yeah.
So you play in that kind of mindset really well, but anything undiscovered, like Pram said, like trying standard concepts and expanded to see if it works better. But in general, Zoroark is we've seen very similar decks kind of do well for the last 2 expanded tournaments, with just very slight variations. And I think that red card change is probably about as good as it's gonna get.
Okay. Rukan, do you have any thoughts on that to add?
So before Dallas, I was testing basically 2 decks. That was Zoroark Lycanroc, which most of the team brought. The second one, which I tested slightly, but ultimately didn't test enough to actually bring, was Zoroark Crabominable. And right now it's okay, because if you're up against the Lonzo red card variant, if they red card you and you just hit teammates or Versus Seeker for teammates, you just take a knockout, 2 prizes. So it has that going for it. I haven't personally done testing because I'm kind of focused on standard right now, but from what I've heard, it's pretty good against specifically the red card Hex Zoroark. The downside is you're still running Crabominable, so you end up having awkward matches against other decks.
Yeah.
Like I play tested again with the team, so with Zoroark Lycanroc, and you might have the type advantage on the Zoroarks in the Lycanroc matchup, but just Bloodthirsty Eyes actually swings the matchup a lot. So even with the huge type advantage on your side, you still only go like 50-50. So it looks like you probably take a good matchup against red card Lonzo. You probably take a very good matchup against Zoroark Elissapod. you're probably going to have some awkward matchups outside of those two as a result. Like, I'm not going to be super happy playing Crabominable against Zoroark Lycanroc, and I'm not going to be too happy playing Crabominable if I face, like, some weird rogue deck. Like, I don't know, Mega Ray, right? Just name something else. It is okay against the top two decks, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Does anyone think Mega Ray has a place again?
No.
Okay.
No.
They made this new card. It's real cool. Lets you card a card, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, it's like Mega Ray, but it does a little bit less. It does a little less for a little bit less for DCE.
It's like if your turn didn't end and you get to keep drawing cards.
Yeah.
All in one card, and it costs 1 less energy.
Yeah, it's broken. Okay, so question about Ultra Prism. Does anyone have any ideas for expanded from Ultra Prism? Anything that looks like it could affect the meta, or is it going to pretty much stay the same?
A Lowland Doug Trio.
That's right.
A Lowland Doug Trio has a lot more potential. It's probably just a meme, but it does have a lot more potential in expanded than it does in standard. Outside of, because just you have superior energy retrieval and execute, which can recover energy really well. But other than that, like maybe because expanded has even more abilities than standard, like maybe Weavile is a little bit, or sees a little bit of success, but nothing really like meaningfully different.
So I tried a little bit of Garchomp because I figured, you know, you have the Breakpoint Garchomp that one-shot Zoroarks, and then you have the Lucario, so you could feasibly chain Red Cartex too. I played about 10 games with it, and it's not remotely consistent enough. You need way too many cards. I would rather just play Zoroark Crabominable because you just need like strong energy, choice band, knockout. Whereas for Garchomp, you need rare candy, strong energy, choice band, and it just takes too much to get going.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like more cards to get that knockout combo than something like Gallade would be. So that didn't pan out at all.
Okay. What other decks besides these top two Zoroark variants and someone's like shuffling cards right now.
It's Kian.
Okay, yeah. So other than those two, Drampagarb and Zoroark, what deck can be very good right now? Like, is there a Toad variant or a fighting variant? Kian, what deck do you think could do well?
I was looking the results from Dallas. I saw Andrew Mahone played a Buzzwole Lycanroc, I think. It played like no VS Seekers. It was like a standard deck, but with no VS Seekers. There's no VS Seekers, which is like standard. So I mean, the thing is, like, he did well. He got top 16 or something, and like not that much people played that deck. So maybe if more people played that deck, like, it could do well. I'm not choosing because I haven't really tested it. It's a fighting deck, so it could beat Zoroark decks. But what else? I don't know. I think people will figure out some new stuff. I haven't really tested too much, so I don't know what's new has been good, but I think there's still options. You shouldn't be like confined or like focusing on all these top decks, like what you just mentioned. I think there's more things to try.
Okay. Connor, any thoughts on
that? Everything that I've tested so far has just kind of been smothered by the disruption combo in Zoroark decks. Like, you have strongest or some of the best damage, you have the most consistency, and you have some of the best disruption in the same deck. So it just ends up being very oppressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a problem I had too. Like, the deck, it has like everything.
Pram, any thoughts?
I mean, outside of like random Buzzwole decks, like that can maybe do some like strong energy, choice band, plus power shenanigans. You know, like, because you can create it for plus power, so it's fine.
That's right.
But like,
Veggie Rock plus power.
Yeah, exactly. So like, outside of like those random stuff, I don't really think there's like a lot of room right now to be too liberal with your deck choice in expanded, just because of how good Zoroark is. Like, it's just so good.
Okay.
And you're kind of seeing that in a lesser extent in standard.
Okay. Rukan, any thoughts on that? Any deck we haven't talked about that could show up?
My first reaction to Dallas probably was maybe take a second look at Toad Zoro, because you're naturally just countering red card. And I've heard some players talk about, oh, they thought Ranger just didn't do enough at Dallas for me, so maybe they cut it. It's a bit of a gamble to assume that they will do that, but it's something.
Okay. So it sounds like the meta is pretty concentrated. There was one other deck. So no one thinks you can play Toad Garb or Misdreavus or something cheesy like that. Is Zoroark still playing Ranger?
A lot of the time. The problem with like the Toad decks, like the heavy lock decks, is Zoroark just has to do like its combo and break out 3 times, and then it wins the game because it takes 6 prizes that way. So it's really hard to play that long grindy game, because in Expanded you're playing into VS Seeker and Puzzle of Time, so their ability to they just need to recover the cards to get a knockout 3 times in a game, and then they win.
Okay.
Plus, a lot of Zoroark decks are running Bunnelby now, so that's just 2 more cards to get back. Yeah. Bunnelby's good.
It is.
Now, what's better, Bunnelby or Rangaroo?
Still Bunnelby.
I don't know. 3 cards is a lot.
Then you just mill your opponent, and then you don't need to worry about time constraints.
But then your opponent uses a Rangaroo and gets 3 cards back.
I've decked out someone at a regionals with Bunnelby. They had like 1 card left in the deck, and my Bunnelby was not in for that matchup against the Volcanion. I decked them out because they played a 1 card in their deck.
That's awesome. All right.
Bunnelby's versatility.
And then took out a Whale Lord with his Bunnelby. So that Bunnelby got him 2 wins that day.
Bunnelby has that versatility, and I think the 1 retreat is also kind of an appeal.
Yeah.
Not in like Lonzo, but like in Zoroark, Lycanroc, where you might actually be playing energy that only provide 1. It'd be an advantage.
One more question about this meta, and we're going to actually end this pretty quickly here. I think there's not too much to cover. But what's your favorite? Sorry, what's the best deck you would not play for this tournament? Rukan, you can go first.
I would not play red card Hex Lonzo, just because I like the Lycanroc variant more, and I would rather just find, no matter how painfully, I would find a way to make it a cut to just add red card Hex into that, than to actually just play the Lonzo variant.
Okay. Pram.
Probably won't be playing Wailord. Sad. But too many people like to play Bunnelby right now, so.
Okay. Connor.
Probably Night March or Gardevoir. I think they have like potential, but the way that Lonzo works right now is just too much for either of them to handle.
Kian.
Probably Wailord. I can't count out the other decks like Night March and Zoroark because I historically been playing them forever, so I don't know. But probably Wailord or Gardevoir.
Okay. Very cool. Well, that's actually all I have for this, but I want to talk a little bit about upcoming metas. After this tournament, we're gonna have we'll have 2 standard tournaments, but then after that, we're gonna have Lucario available, Lucario GX, and I assume that's gonna be played with Zoroark, correct?
Yep.
What's it do?
It's a Galissapod for fighting.
It's when you evolve, it gets the plus like 60 or 90.
Plus
I'm looking
90.
it up.
It's 30
30 plus
damage,
90.
and if you evolved it that turn, it does 120 damage.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
Fighting colorless for 130, and then its GX attack is I think it's Tauros's GX attack.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, it
but
is.
less damage. I'm pretty sure it's like 30.
No, it's the same.
Oh, it's
50.
50.
30 times.
Oh, is Taurus
30.
30?
30 times.
I thought
Yeah,
it was 50
it's
for
the
some reason.
same. It's the same attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how? That's just gonna get played with Zoroark, right?
Yep.
And then
Yeah, probably.
does that beat all these Zoroark that we have now?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think so?
I
Yeah.
don't see anything beating it. That's a Zoroark variant, anyways.
What's it weak to?
Psychic.
It's weak to, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people could, at least in standard, people could be trying like Espeon Garb some more.
yeah,
yeah.
but like,
Then you lose to all the other Zoroarks.
I think in
here's the issue
standard
of
it's like
Espeon
more
Garb,
naturally
right? What if
captured.
Like, what if you lead Riolu? It's got 70 HP. If they Psychic it, it has 60 damage on it. It doesn't die. You just evolve it, and then you GX the Espeon.
Oh, you know what Lucario has an issue with? It has kind of like the Buzzball syndrome, where it's like weak to Psychic, so you just get knocked out by Mew.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're playing Zoroark, so then you can return knockout the Mew. And you're never going to, like, play the Lucario until it's taking 2 prizes for you.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's like... It runs into like a sticky situation sometimes, I guess. It just seems like it.
I think Lucario just races too quick, right? Because you can Guzma one-shot a Lele on the bench. You can Kukui, you can one-shot a Buzzwole. Just puts out a little too much damage.
Yeah. The fact that it does 120 for 1 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think its biggest problem is that it has to evolve. Like, it's not that it has to come active, it's that it has to evolve that turn. So,
Yeah.
like, you could get stuck in a weird spot where you have, like, 1 energy on it. You can't feasibly use the second attack yet.
Is it from hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soda.
Oh, it says if the Evo Soda does trigger it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then my next question is this. Is there a potential that Zoroark gets banned and expanded?
Not for at least another year. Or 2.
Yeah.
It's around for a while.
Okay. Is there
I
anything...
think what would get banned, if anything, would be like Skyfield.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Card's old. Get it out of here.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's what ruins Zoroark?
I think
Puts
it's
his damage
expanded.
over the top. Do what?
Yeah. Because it ruins Zoroark's damage output.
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. I was just gonna go around and we can do shout outs and we'll be done. Kian, why don't you go first?
Shout out for you for having me, and shout outs to Someone's PC. They're really cool, and check out our content.
Okay. Pram, go ahead.
Shout outs to AOG for sponsoring me. That's really cool of them. Follow me on Twitter. I post like tournament results, decks I played, some other stuff. Thanks for having me.
And future Trunks lists.
Yeah. So I've been playing Dragon Ball a little bit. So I post, like, when I play Dragon Ball stuff, I post on there. So.
Basically, the only thing I know about Dragon Ball is from your Twitter. Not just the show, not just the card game, but the show as well.
That's actually true for a couple of Pokemon players that have started Dragon Ball. It's like they saw me post a deck on Twitter and they're like, "Hey, is that game fun?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of fun."
That's awesome.
It's a fun game.
Is it gonna die because the show ended?
No.
Okay.
Not immediately, at least.
Connor. Shout out.
Second shout out to Someone's PC. I'm going to have an article up on there in a couple of days, and then it's like a 2-parter, so I'll have an article up in a couple of days that has like a bunch of stats from Collinsville, and then there'll be like an analysis like a week or so after that. Shout out to PokeBeach. I write for them as well. Shout out to Yeti Gaming, and you as well for having me on.
All right. Rukan.
Shout out to Dead Draw Gaming, my sponsor. I got an article on there recently for Forbidden Lights, so check that out if you want to. And shout out to you too, Seagrove.
All right, thanks guys. Peace.